Hey friends, welcome back to Grand Adventure. I'm your host, Mark Guido, and we're spending this week's episode exploring historic Natchez, Mississippi, right on the banks of the mighty Mississippi River. Come along. The historic city of Natchez, Mississippi sits atop a river bluff, lining the mighty Mississippi River, 363 river miles upstream of New Orleans. It was a prominent city in the antebellum years, from 1815 until the Civil War, a center of cotton planters and Mississippi River trade. Established by French colonists in 1716, Natchez is one of the oldest and most important European settlements in the entire lower Mississippi River Valley. Natchez was actually the first capital of Mississippi before giving up that status to the newly created city of Jackson in 1822. Natchez is divided by the river bluff into districts, called On the Top of the Hill atop the bluff and Under the Hill, where barges and keelboats used to put in with goods from northern ports. Back in the day, it was a hotbed of gamblers, prostitutes, and drunken crew from the boats. Many of the rowdies, referred to as cane tucks, were rough Kentucky frontiersmen who operated flatboats down the river, then would head the 450 miles back up to Nashville via the Trace, by walking or riding horseback. In the decades preceding the Civil War, Natchez was by far the most prevalent slave trading city in Mississippi, and second in the United States only to New Orleans. The leading markets were located here at the forks of the road, at the intersection of what was at the time called Liberty Road and Washington Road. During the U.S. Civil War, Confederates surrendered Natchez without a fight, and Natchez became home to a refugee camp for freed slaves. The slave market here was demolished in 1863 by U.S. Army troops, who recycled the lumber into barracks for themselves and self-emancipated people. It's now part of Natchez National Historical Park. Having been spared the Civil War destruction across most of the South, Natchez initially boomed after the war. One of the nation's first black mayors even led the city during Reconstruction in the 1870s. However, the city's economy declined in the early 1900s as railroads replaced steamboats and many local industries closed. In the middle of the 19th century, Natchez attracted wealthy southern planters as residents, who built mansions to fit their ambitions. Left largely unscathed during the Civil War, many of these homes remain today. Their plantations were vast tracts of land in the surrounding lowlands along the riverfronts of Mississippi and Louisiana, where they grew large commodity crops of cotton and sugarcane using slave labor. Natchez became the principal port from which these crops were exported, both upriver to northern cities and downriver to New Orleans, where much of the cargo was exported to Europe. Auburn was commissioned in 1812 by Mississippi's first Attorney General, Lyman Harding, and introduced academic classical order architecture in the Mississippi Territory. Architect Levi Weeks designed the house to be, in his words, the most magnificent building in the state. The building in 203 acres was donated to the city of Natchez in 1911 and is now an historic house museum and a public park. Built in 1823 for Peter Little, a wealthy cotton broker, Rosalie Mansion was a major influence on antebellum architecture in the greater region, inspiring many of Natchez's grand Greek Revival mansions. During the American Civil War, it served as U.S. Army headquarters for the Natchez area from July 1863 on. The Towers of Natchez was built over 3 different time periods, beginning around 1790 and ending in 1858. Stanton Hall is a Greek Revival mansion built in the 1850s that occupies an entire 2-acre city block. It was designed and built for Frederick Stanton, a cotton broker, who lived in it for only 9 months before he died of yellow fever. Built on a 26-acre lot, Monmouth was built in 1818 by John Hankinson, a postmaster, lawyer, and steamboat entrepreneur, and renovated about 1853 by John A. Quitman, a former governor of Mississippi and well-known figure in the Mexican-American War. It is one of Natchez's grandest Greek Revival mansions and now serves as a small luxury hotel. Melrose was built between 1840 and 1845 for John T. McMurrin, a successful lawyer, planter, and slaveholder who arrived in Natchez from Pennsylvania in 1824 or 1825. It's now part of Natchez National Historical Park, and the home is open for park ranger-led tours. As subsequent owners sold the original furnishings with the house, it's one of the most intact antebellum estates in the entire South. Melrose is also home to one of the last remaining slave quarters in Natchez. We're staying for 2 nights at Plantation RV Park just several miles south of town. They charge $39.95 per night here plus tax for a full hookup 50-amp wooded site. It's been a quiet, peaceful stay in close proximity to historic downtown Natchez. come back following a quick ad break, we'll bring you to some truly unique mansion ruins and a veritable ghost town right in the woods of southwest Mississippi. So stay tuned. We've traveled north of Natchez to near Port Gibson to see the splendidly unique Windsor ruins. Built just before the Civil War, Windsor was one of the largest plantations in the area. Legend says that from a roof observatory, Mark Twain watched the Mississippi River in the distance. Leading up to the Battle of Port Gibson in the spring of 1863, Confederate troops used the roof observatory as a lookout as Grant's army crossed the Mississippi River. After the battle, the mansion was used as a Union hospital and observation post, thus sparing it from being burned by Union troops. But in 1890, a house guest left a lighted cigar on the upper balcony, and Windsor burned to the ground. Everything was destroyed except the 23 columns that remain standing today. En route to Windsor ruins, we made a U-turn to check out Bethel Presbyterian Church. Organized in 1826, the building that stands today was built in the mid-1840s, although a 1943 tornado damaged the building extensively, and the steeple was never replaced. Services haven't been held here since the 1970s. During Grant's campaign to take Vicksburg, he landed his troops east of the Mississippi just a few miles from here, at Bruinsburg. His troops passed Bethel Church on April 30th, 1863, moving to Port Gibson on the Rodney Road. More about Rodney in a moment, but if you'd like to learn much more about the Battle of Vicksburg, check out our last episode 387, which we'll link to right here on the screen. Now, about Rodney. Believe it or not, this is the only road into and continuing out of Rodney. For Rodney, Mississippi is now a ghost town, only 32 miles northeast of Natchez. In 1817, Rodney was only 3 votes away from becoming the capital of Mississippi. When the town was incorporated in 1828, it was a thriving Mississippi River port right on the water. Population reached the thousands, and 2 major newspapers operated in town, along with banks, schools, a lecture hall, Mississippi's first opera house, a hotel, and over 35 stores. But a sandbar developed upstream during the Civil War, and the Mississippi River changed course 2 miles to the west. Rodney's shipping channel became a swamp. Nearly all of the buildings burned down in 1869, yellow fever struck, and the railroad bypassed the area. The population declined, and the town was disincorporated in 1930. This was Alston's grocery store, built circa 1840 and one of the few remaining structures in town. The Mississippi River still returns whenever it floods seasonally, and the few buildings still standing here all have extensive flood damage. Mount Zion Baptist Church in Rodney, built in 1851, is now heavily overgrown with vines and completely abandoned as the structure shows extensive signs of flood damage, including water lines and rotted floors. The Gable Front Masonic Lodge was built circa 1890. During the Civil War, Confederate States Army cavalry captured the crew of a Union Army ship who were attending a service in Rodney Presbyterian Church, built in 1832 and now the oldest remaining building in Rodney. This resulted in the shelling of the town, and you may note a replica cannonball embedded just above the center window, installed to replace a real cannonball lodged in that very spot during the shelling. The handful of reclusive people who still maintain residences near Rodney have found creative ways to avoid the yearly flood damage. We've spent enough time exploring Rodney, as it's now time to speed back to Natchez, for this is the weekend of the annual Natchez Balloon Festival. We'll bring you along immediately following one more quick ad break to pay the bills. The Natchez Balloon Festival, established in 1986, is a mid-October weekend of hot air balloons and regional big-name live music, that has become the largest and most successful festival in southwest Mississippi. The festival site, featuring the main stage, amusement rides, craft vendors, and food booths, is located atop the River Bluff in historic downtown Natchez, on the grounds of the Antebellum Mansion Rosalie. Concurrent with the Balloon Festival, the city of Vidalia, Louisiana holds a festival on their riverfront. We're heading across the bridge at sunset to check it out. Things are much quieter on the Louisiana side of the river, but no less festive. So that's a wrap on our visit to historic Natchez, Mississippi. Coming up next week, we're going to head out of here on a long 7-hour move up to northern Arkansas to see the Buffalo National River. So if you're not yet a grand adventurer yourself, now is the time for you to go smash that little subscribe button right down there in the lower right-hand corner of your screen. And ring that notification bell to be sure that you never miss a grand adventure, which we premiere right here every Wednesday evening. We'd also be honored if you shared the channel with your friends, family, and on social media. Understand that it's extremely important to us that if you like this episode from Natchez, please be sure to give us a big thumbs up down below. And while you're down below, that's where you'll find the comment section, where we love to hear from you each and every week. So until next Wednesday, from the Buffalo National River in northern Arkansas, please remember life is nothing but a grand adventure. We'll see you then.